All right, so hi folks, thanks for joining us. I think we might have some issues with our Zoom link, so we don't have very many participants with us tonight, but we're still going to have our presenters do their presentations and we'll post it on YouTube. So if people miss out, they can watch it later on. So thank you everyone who's here tonight and to our presenters who are here. So first up, we have Catherine, who is with Danone Corporation and is going to talk to us about B Corps. So Catherine, if you want to take it away, that would be great. And you should be able to just share your screen, I think.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I'll see my slides.
Yep, it's looking great. We can see it all. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thanks all so much for the Director of Sustainability at Danone North America. I work with Lauren, who's on your board as well, who actually definitely brought a lot of life to our B Corp messaging and our latest certification, which I'm very appreciative of. So I'm just here today to give a little bit of background on what B Corp certification is, and then also kind of how we achieved it in about 20 minutes. But feel free to stop if you have any questions. I could definitely talk about this all day, every day for years. So, but this will be just kind of a quick overview. So just a little bit of background on Danone North America. So it's nearly 20% of the global business called Danone. So they're based out of Paris, France. It's about 100,000 employees, and it's over a $30 billion business, crossing over 55 countries with a mission to bring health through food to as many people as possible. On the, let's see if I can find this. On the right there, you can see our business model, brand model. And what's really cool about this, and this is my 12th year working in corporate sustainability for different CPG companies across the country, is that these 2030 goals that we have as a company actually came out of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So they weren't made in isolation only with our shareholders, right? They were made with the understanding that we want to look out for all stakeholders, in our communities, in the environment, and then of course our shareholders as well. And so some of the values that you'll see in there include be a certified B Corp. We're actually on the mission to become a certified B Corp for the entire $30 billion company by 2025, and we're on track to do that. So here's some of the products. Lauren and I always joke that no one really knows who Danone is, but if you see some of these products, I'm sure you'll see some that you may have, everything from Silk, Horizon, Danimals, Activia, Oikos, International Delight. We have a ton, like our portfolio is massive, and we're actually headquartered out of Broomfield. White Wave, we were acquired a few years ago, and so our dual headquarters are in Broomfield and then New York. So what is a B Corp? There's a really critical difference, and it gets a little bit confusing, especially when you hear kind of all the hype words in the news between a public benefit corporation and then a certified B Corp. And so a public benefit corporation is a legal entity. So most companies fall on their legal status as an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC, for instance. But when you redo your charter, you're actually embedding in your bylaws requirements that are legally holding you accountable to consider the purpose and duties that you have towards all stakeholders. And this is available, the status is available in over 30 states. And then the second piece of this is becoming a certified B Corp. And so this is a certification that you go through. I'll walk through a little bit more of what that looks like here in a minute, but I actually hardly ever use the word certification internally. So to become certified, you do have to go through that certification process. You have to get an 80 out of 200 points. But for us at Danone, it's something we really want to embed deeper into the business. So all employees really know and understand that they play an important part in what it means to be a B Corp. So B Lab is a nonprofit organization that hosts the certification process, and they audit you every 3 years. But then in the meantime, it's not just a checkbox exercise. We're constantly looking, within our procurement teams, our HR teams, to embed policies and processes and programs up and down our entire value chain to make sure the mission and values of being a B Corp are really genuinely held by everyone. It's not just The certification we got 3 years ago and hung on the wall and moved on, it really becomes the part of the fabric of who we are. And that's where this slide really comes in. It's one of my favorites. When we were all in the office before, I used to love when I would see this printed, even though it's not sustainable, of course, but when it was printed on folks' desks, right? Because it speaks more to how it's not just a certification. And then the two pieces are highlighted here, but it's a movement and it's a community. So where this plays part for a big company like ours, so Danone North America is about $6 billion here in the States. And we lean a ton on the rest of the B Corps around the world and in the United States for best practice, sharing best practices, for leveraging different policies with government, and really using our business as a force for good. So instead of it just being, the certification process, like I said, you're not just going through and checking the box, you're really embedding the mission and values. Because when you have that bigger community, right, and you're looking at societal issues and larger environmental issues, and you have all of these companies around the world, there's close to 4,000 now. I was actually just looking today to see if I needed to update this slide. It's almost 4,000 across 74 countries. When you're all bounding together, 150 industries, to really say, what do we need to do to redefine what success looks like? Price has to say, but you're saying, where is this company located? What are they doing for their community, not just financially, but also for the local schools, all the way to how are they treating their workers? What's their parental leave policy? Are they paying living wage? And then also, half of these are in the United States. So 1,200 companies in the US are certified B Corps. The one that's circled up there is actually one of our suppliers, McCarty Farms. We partner with a ton of our suppliers who are interested in becoming B Corps, because for us, that's really important too, right? Not just what we're doing in our four walls, but who we're working with. So we make sure that we are constantly having these conversations with our suppliers about how to also embed those mission and values into their practices as well. Some of our big customers are also really interested in becoming a B Corp. But what happens is, if you look at some of these big brands, right, when they start adding the logo to their products, when they start really talking about it at the highest level with their investors, all the way down to their consumers, and affecting the to not just cost, right? That's very important, but also saying consumers can, really vote for the world that they want to live in. If they're starting to say, I'm going to buy this product because it has this logo on it, I know that the practices up and down the value chain, everything from their community practices, their financial practices, and the environmental practices are sound, and I'm going to choose that product over another. That speaks volumes. And so all of these companies we lean on heavily, constantly, right? If we have somebody in our procurement team has a question, they call me and say, hey, Catherine, I noticed this question in our certification. I would love for us in the next few years to have a roadmap to get better. What can we do? What is Patagonia doing? What is Allbirds doing? What is Kickstarter doing? Can we talk to them? And we get on the phone, right? It's even some of our competitors who are also B Corps are willing to have these conversations. And I always love that, because I always, as a sustainability professional, wonder what's going to happen when we're all competing on solving some of the big world climate change, right? If everybody's competing on how to solve those, instead of coming together and towards one goal and really working together, just think of the power we can have. And so we really heavily lean on the community, just as much as they lean on us for that best practice sharing. But for the certification requirements, these are kind of the three pieces that we went through. So we started this process back in 2017, and we actually did it under a year. So when Danone acquired White Wave Foods, they made the public statement. They said from day one, as a new company, they wanted to change that charter that I talked about before. They wanted to meet the legal requirement to become a public benefit corporation. And they said, now we want to go on the road to getting that certification as well. And so you have to get an 80 out of 200 points, and then you have to recertify every 3 years. And that's actually what we just went through here and announced this past April. And then the last piece is that you have to make it official. And this is one of my favorite things for folks to look at, because it and some of these statements are very big and bold, right? Be the change you wish to see in the world do no harm, and benefit all. When you have Fortune 500 companies signing with their CEO and the founders of B Lab, when you're signing public statements like this, you're asking, for a whole nother level of transparency, because all of your questions and answers to that certification go online. But you're also saying to everyone, here's what we stand for and hold us to it, right? But then what happens is when you're trying to take these conversations and these statements into a public company, right? The question is how? What do you do? How do you manifest in a day-to-day in a very practical way? And that's where the B impact assessment actually comes in. And so the B impact assessment is that questionnaire that you fill out that you have to get an 80 out of 200 on. And for those of you who already did the math, if you divide 80 by 200, it's a failing grade, right? That's not the point, right? And Lauren will smile. I say this quite frequently internally. Points aren't the point of a measure of impact. And so here's the initial journey we went on. You'll see it. You'll see that we answered over 1,500 questions, thousands of documents and data points. The audit was very intense. Lauren helped with it significantly. We got the final score of an 85, right? But for us, it really was a measure of what was happening internally. What were the practices? What was the day-to-day like? For me, what's really important is when employees can not only say kind of the elevator speech of what it means to be a B Corp, but when I see them asking the questions and really embedding in their day-to-day jobs these mission and values. And so no matter what our score is, right, we just recertified, like I said, in April, 11 points higher. Super exciting, right? But for me, it's more important to just see that impact internally. The employee engagement has increased significantly, and just the fact that we can talk to our customers, anyone on the our plant floor, and for them to really feel ownership and what it means to be a B Corp is really the point for us. Assessment. This is the other piece of the how. How do we engage everyone, right? Those big, beautiful statements I read that are in the Declaration of Interdependence that you sign. How do you engage folks across the business? So impact areas that are covered in the assessment are on this last slide that I have. And these are all the question buckets, right? So governance, community, customers, environment, and workers. So 1,500 questions. They weigh pretty heavily, I would say, in the workers and governance and community section the most. Workers questions, we have a ton of HR team members who are very passionate about not only making sure employees are engaged in this process, but also embedding it into our benefits, into our health and safety practices. The governance questions lean very heavily on what is our board, who is our board, who's on it, how much are they making, those kinds of questions. As far as the community bucket, this really looks at not only our civic engagement and our diversity and inclusion programs, but also that of our suppliers. And so we get to have some really phenomenal, transparent conversations working on, right? So it's not just an audit anymore. You're not just auditing suppliers, but you're really saying, how can we create an open conversation? How can we have that shared value to hold each other accountable? And then if you have questions, like I said before, you can have this entire community of over 1,200 companies, over 4,000 in the world to lean on, right? Some big, some small, but we're all kind of facing the same challenges. And so because there's so many questions that cover so many different areas, it really gives us the opportunity to drive continuous improvement, right? Of course, we want to keep increasing our score, but more importantly, it's saying, how can we genuinely embed every single day in everyone's job so they do their job with that different lens, the lens that says, am I taking into account the impact of my financial decisions, of my building decisions, where, if we're going to build a new plant or something? Are we looking at the impact on our workers, our supply chain workers? What's the impact on our internal and external communities? And of course, that of our environment. But also, where are your manufacturing facilities located? And are you making sure that your goals are being set for reduction in the facilities that are in the most water scarce regions? So overall, all the questions are across the board. There's tons of them, but what that does is it really gives everybody in the business the opportunity to say, what am I passionate about? What is my job? And what can I do differently on a daily basis? So that's what we're doing. This is how we're really embedding the mission and values of what it means to be a B Corp every day. Lauren, I don't know if you have anything to add from kind of your perspective in the value chain and from like a communications perspective, but that's what I had as an overview.
No, I think this was great. I think the big piece of it is just, we work to educate our employees, and it's a sense of pride that they have when they can talk about the fact that we were the world's largest B Corp. We've just been dethroned. Somebody took over our title, but talking about being a B Corp in general, whether we're the largest or not, doesn't really matter, but just means and how we're driving for good in all that we do. So I think it's just a huge point of pride for our employees and anyone that enjoys our products too.
Absolutely. I think what's really interesting, that's such a good point, right? When we were dethroned, everyone was pretty excited, right? Because that's the point, is we want bigger and more companies to be able to join this community just so we can do more together. And our consumers see it, which is really amazing. And I think we especially saw that during COVID, when health and public health became so critical. It always has been critical, of course, but much more apparent in our communities. Folks were really leaning on companies who are willing to be transparent in these ways.
So thank you so much, Catherine. I was muted there. Sorry. That was a great presentation. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? All right. Well, I think we're good for tonight then. Thank you so much again, Catherine. This was a great presentation and an overview of, what a B Corp is and why it's great that Danone has become one. And I heard you guys did this faster, like it's usually like a 2-year process, but you did it in a year or something like that?
Yeah, so the goal that we initially set, great question, was to do it in 2 years. We were able to beat it and do it in just a year, just because of the engagement, to be honest with you. It was really phenomenal when I started diving into the questions back in 2017. And just the amount of a number of employees who didn't have it in their objectives, who were just really passionate about working on the assessment, gathering the data, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in our policies and really hitting the market. That's what did it. It was really phenomenal. But yeah, we beat our goal by 2 years because of that.
Nice. Well, congratulations. Great work on that.
Thank you.
We're excited to have a business like that's, centered in Broomfield here. So speaks volumes and makes us stand out as a great community, I think. So we're excited to have Danone here.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me. And if you guys have any follow-up questions, please, Lauren is an expert as well. So please feel free to ask her, but let me know if you have any other ones. And thank you for dealing with me being off video under the weather. So thank you.
No worries. I hope you're feeling better soon.
Okay. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you too,
unless anybody has questions. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
All right, wonderful. So next up we have George, and he's going to give us a presentation on dark skies. So George, go ahead and you can take it away. You should be able to just share your screen as soon as you'd like to.
I'll have to turn on my PowerPoint first.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep, that's looking great. You can go
Okay.
ahead. Perfect.
Yeah, what I'm going to be talking about this evening is the dark sky movement in general, and then I'll mention Broomfield in particular toward the end. Okay, most of my information, the International Dark Sky Association, but I've also gotten some information from the National Optical Astronomy Observatory and Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition, and several of the other ones listed below. What we're talking about is proper use of outdoor lighting. So I'm going to talk about light pollution and the histories of lighting design, various types of lighting pollution, major costs of light pollution, and then some solutions, and then lighting in Broomfield. This is what we would like to be able to see if we went outside at night and looked up at the sky, even in Broomfield. But I don't think you've ever seen it like that. So the nightscape used to be full moon, relatively bright, dark moon, relatively dark. But over the last 100 years, urban developers have built up lightings in buildings, streets, open spaces. And so we have lights everywhere at night. This is the difference you have a dark sky versus a light polluted sky. On the left, out in the mountains, if you looked at the constellation of Orion, and if you looked from Broomfield, what you would see is on the right. It's the same stars, but they've lost their brightness because the skies become bright around them. Outdoor lighting today, as you can see in the picture, as roadways, community parks, stadiums, parking lots, landscaping, residential lights, everything so that you can see at night, but more than you need to see at night. The purpose of outdoor lighting is to provide safe and secure environments at night, to extend the use of parks and walkways, to enhance historical or notable features, such as the picture on the right, or to enhance travel at roads and intersections. But there are lots of types of light pollution. We have glare that actually causes physical discomfort. If you've ever driven down a street and had somebody go by you with their high beams on, that's glare. Sky glow, brightening of the night sky over inhabited areas, that's what we have in Broomfield. Light trespass, that's light falling where it's not intended, needed, or wanted. And clutter, that's too many different lights, excessive groups of lights where they're really not needed. Most of the problems with lighting have to do with shielding. You have to correctly shield the lights so that the light goes where it's supposed to. Then you have positioning. Where is that light set so that you can see what you're supposed to see? And then there's color problems. If a light is too blue, it's not really very good at night. The problems are not cost related. It's just design. You have street light, and you notice that the area to be lit is the street, and that's the useful light coming from that light fixture. But you have glare coming out to the side, so people have light in their eyes. You have light trespass, which is the light shining into people's bedrooms. You certainly don't need that. And then you even have light shining up into the sky to light up the clouds. There's not much purpose to that either. Examples of glare, here's the top picture shows an uncontrolled light. And so you look at it and it kind of blinds you. You can't see any details. If you covered the light, you realize there's somebody standing in that opening there. So it actually hurts if you have too much glare. Here's street lighting. Uncontrolled again. You see it's not only lighting up the street, but it's lighting the trees, it's lighting the buildings. It's just light everywhere. Here's my favorite example of bad street lighting. You have glare, light trespass, clutter, you have it all on one street. As you can just look around and see all the different lights that really don't need to be there. Now, examples of sky glow, the reason you get sky glow is that you have light shining up. Here we're looking at a city from above, and yet you can see all those lights. All that light that we see there is wasted because it's going up in the sky. Here's an entire city. You're looking at wasted light because nobody down there in that city is seeing this light. This light is just going. Here you have an entire country. You may recognize the country. And all of those bright lights are city centers, regional areas that have lots of light. You can probably find Denver if you work at it. And here's the entire planet. If you were coming from Mars, you wouldn't have any problem landing on the Earth at night because you could find your way around quite nicely. You can see that the continents are actually outlined pretty well with the lights so that you can find your way around. This is the Denver metro area. The two yellow blobs in the upper left are Boulder and Longmont. And then Broomfield is at, whoops, I jumped the picture. Broomfield is actually, if I can get my, here. So you can see we're in the bright areas. Here's an example of light trespass locally. You have a street light, which is supposed to light the street, and yet it's doing a very good job of lighting somebody's bedroom or apartment. In fact, probably several of them. And that's what it looks like in the bedroom. And you really don't need that when you're trying to go to sleep at night. Here's another example of a poorly designed light that is actually lighting up the bedrooms of people upstairs, probably better than it's lighting up the street itself. Here's a light that's supposed to light the parking lot, but I think you can see it's doing a much better job of lighting the side of the building and probably people's bedrooms again. So what we have is just poor. There it is. Examples of unshielded lights. You can see the design there. And on the left is a building down the lower left that had that kind of lighting. And then they changed it and shielded the lights. And I think you can see it's much easier to see things. You don't have the same glare. And all they did was change the design of the light. Here's problems with unshielded lights. I already showed you sky glow from cities, glare. If you're trying to see if there's anybody in that car on the right there, you're out of luck because the light is so bright in your eyes, you can hardly see that the car is sitting there. And then of course, light trespass on the bottom picture, we have a street light that's lighting up somebody's house. Unshielded lights waste. Two pictures of the same building. One where they're lighting up the roof for no apparent reason because the light's just going up into the sky. And the second one where they're just lighting the downstairs where it's useful. So you waste money because all that light that's shining up in the sky costs somebody something. It's not free. You want to remove glare because it makes it harder to see at night. Here's unshielded street lighting in the top picture, and you can hardly see where you are. Whereas this shielded street lighting in the bottom picture makes it much easier to see where you want to go and what's available. Outdoor lighting should enhance the visibility, not impede it. Should not produce glare, be a part of the total nightscape, not all of it. Have no light trespass on others' property. Notice it's called light trespass. That's physical trespass. But shining lights onto people's property is light trespass because it doesn't belong there. Here's good lighting. Should provide a safe and secure environment, create safe routes for traffic, cyclists, or pedestrians, and should facilitate the extended use of outdoor spaces. Here's lighting on the picture of a baseball field, and that's probably correctly lit because you see it's dark outside the field. Now, why should you care? Well, 13% of residential electricity use is for outdoor lighting. And outdoor lighting wastes at least 1 hour of TV, which is important to some people, every night. You wind up using 15 million tons of carbon dioxide. That's 40,000 tons per day for 3 million cars. To take care of all that carbon dioxide, you need 875 million trees to absorb it. So as far as global warming, this is one of the problems. Light pollution costs more, 160 million commercial outdoor lights, 45 million of them are street lights, 62 million are lights on commercial buildings, 52 million are parking lot lights, and 30% of all the lighting produced is wasted. It doesn't do anybody any good, doesn't help anybody to see. And that turns out to be $10 for every person in the US, as far as US money is concerned. Unshielded lights are even unsafe. Standing over there, he's got a very bright light up in the trees there, but there are dark spots here and there along the walkway, which shouldn't be there. The light should be much lower, properly aligned, and then you would be able to see the entire walkway. Again, unshielded lights around homes are unsafe. I already showed you the picture on the left, and now you see a picture on the right. If you're walking up to that house and the light's unshielded, you have no idea who's standing there. But if you have the light shielded, as it is in the bottom picture, you can see who it is. So it makes a big difference. Bad lighting is not good for wildlife. Animals and plants live by the 24-hour light and dark cycle. Wildlife and fish become disoriented by too much artificial light at night. Foraging for food, they're all negatively affected by light at night. And insects, as you know, if you've been out in a public parking lot at night, insects are attracted to bright light and lose their natural habits. So lots of bad things going on with lighting. It even affects human health. Light trespass into bedrooms disrupts sleep. Glare in our eyes can be blinding and reduce night vision if you're trying to drive and somebody's shining lights in your eyes. Blue light at night is very bad because it reduces the melatonin levels that you need for sleep. So if you've been near blue light, you're not going to be able to sleep as well. And blue light also destroys your night vision. So once you see a blue light when you're outside at night, it takes you about 10 minutes for your eyes to readapt to the dark. It's also very negative. They're having to go to more and more strange places to get away from light pollution. Many people today never get to see the Milky Way because they can't. It's too bright outside. And astronomers have fewer and fewer places to do their research. Here's some good choices and bad choices for residential lighting. If you look on the left, you have a typical wall light that's shining right in your eyes, shining up into the air. You have an area floodlight that's doing the same thing. And there are many typical yard lights that shine up instead of down into the yard. If you look on the right, you see what has to be done to make it a dark-friendly wall light or an area floodlight with a hood so that it's actually shining down on where you need it, and a yard light down. So it's just design, not anything else. This is an example of a store lighting display. They're all bad. There are no good lights there for your porch or your backyard. And the problem with almost all of them, as you look at it, is that the bulb itself is in the middle of the light. Whatever kind of a mounting it has, the bulb is right in the middle, so it shines in all directions. Oops. Here's some better choices. Notice that in these cases, the light is up in the structure itself so that it's not shining in your eyes, it's shining down. So if you had to choose good lighting, you could pick one of these, and it's just a matter of in the structure where it's not shining upward or into your eyes. There are 4 different types of bulbs, at least the basic ones. And one is incandescent. We're getting rid of those now, but they've been around for 100 years. We have fluorescent bulbs, which are much more efficient than the incandescent, but still have their own problems. Have high intensity discharge, like mercury vapor, low pressure sodium. Those are the ones you usually see outside at night. And we have light emitting diodes, which I'm going to give its own page because that's the newest thing. The newest technology that's come out and is replacing most outside lighting. It's very efficient. LEDs are very efficient compared to other bulbs. They're very long lasting, and they have better control over temperature if you don't want them to be. And they're even dimmable. This shows different light efficiencies up to 2020, and you'll see that until about 2010, LEDs were not in use, not outdoors anyway. And you can see the efficiency of the fluorescents, halogens, and high intensity discharge lamps. But since 2010, companies have been able to design LEDs to become much more efficient. In other words, you get more light for the same amount of energy. And that means more light for the same cost. And the general costs, these may not be exact today, they change every year, but An incandescent bulb would cost you $201 over 23 years, or the LED would cost you much less, 48 or 38 instead of 201. So they are much better. Also, the direction for the lighting. A regular light bulb, incandescent, shines in all directions, so you have to cover it. And the picture in the middle shows covering it so that it's useful. LEDs are naturally directional over 180 degrees. They don't shine in all directions. You actually have to redesign the bulb to shine in all directions. Okay, I wanted to mention the eye. The human eye is most sensitive, if you look at the black curve, in the green and yellow part of the spectrum. And so that's what you need to see by at night. Use the blue part of the spectrum, you see that melatonin suppression, the solid white line, is mostly in the blue part of the spectrum. So if you have a bluish light, you're going to lose melatonin and you're not going to be able to sleep well. So it's better not to use blue lights at night. Now, here's some more details on that. If you have a daylight colored LED bulb, you see it has a very blue section to its spectrum. A compact fluorescent lamp also has a blue section to its spectrum. So neither of those are very good at night because they suppress your melatonin. Incandescents suppress less. Candles, if you want to go back to 17th century, suppress very little. But we can now take an LED and change it so that we can mimic candles. And I'll mention a few things about color temperatures, since you may see those on the side of a bulb, tells you what the temperature is. We want to have lights that are 2,700 to 3,000 degrees Kelvin, because that's yellow to orange. If you get over 3,000 degrees, the color of the bulb becomes more blue, and it's better for daytime work, but it's not good at night because of the melatonin problem and dark adaptation. Here are a couple of ads that I've seen recently for lighting. A standard LED, if you look at the spectrum of it, does have blue light, and you can see the melatonin suppression curve superimposed. Company that's selling Sora Healthy lights has moved that blue light into the ultraviolet. And so you don't see any blue light, and so your melatonin is not affected. So you can have ads that give you an idea that they will benefit you at night. Nightmare ad. This is a made-up ad. Notice the company is saying, go green with LED lighting. Well, they didn't go green, they went blue. And you can see that it says no more wasted energy. But if you look at that picture on the right, a lot of that light is wasted energy. And it's not even a real picture, by the way. If you look closely, you'll see the same people walking on that promenade, because all they did was take the yellow picture and turn it to blue. So this was a company that was trying to sell that was not good. It was very poor lighting. Next few slides will show shielded and unshielded outdoor lighting examples. The one on top is a ball field. You're way away from the ball field, but it's kind of blinding you in the distance. Whereas the lower picture shows you a ball field and you're actually closer to it, but you're not being blinded because the lights are shining only on the field itself. Here's an example of badly and well done recessed lighting at a gas station. The one on the left tried to be somewhat helpful by having the lights under a canopy, but the lights are shining all over the place. And the one on the right is the proper design for the same kind of thing. And you can see a big difference. All the light is shining down, not up into the sky, mainly because they don't want to blind the planes that are coming in. Here's bad lighting at an ATM. They have one light up in the corner lighting the trees and the side of the building, but it's unnecessary. They could have put the lighting in a much better spot so that it lit the ATM. Here's a good light. This is a new type of street light. You'll see that it has edges on it. On the upper left and lower right, there seem to be some straight lines. That tends to block light from going off in the wrong directions. So here's this picture of the same street. That's the same light that I just showed you. And you see the sidewalk is lit up, the street is lit up, but the house is not lit up because they have proper shielding. So just the design, it's not a different kind of a bulb at all. Now, if you want to find out more lighting information, you can go to the International Dark Sky Association. This is a group of people who have been trying to tell the world about the poor lighting in most cities. And they've been doing a fairly good job of it, but it's very slow work. They try to designate certain areas so that, for example, they can call a town or a village an international dark sky community. And that gives them sort of an upper hand on telling people that they could come there as tourists and actually see the sky at night. We have international dark sky park. There are lots of them around the country. There are international dark sky reserves all around the world. These are bigger than the community or parks. They might combine a community and a park. And then there are international dark sky sanctuaries. These are dark sky areas that have been dark and are still dark, but they're being protected so that they are not ruined by too much lighting. Now, these are recommendations for individuals. Light only what you need around your house. Use energy efficient bulbs and only as bright as you need. Shield the lights so that they're directed down. And here's something, use only lights when you need it. You can turn them off. If you go to bed at 11 or 12 at night, turn off your porch light. Nobody's coming by. And you should choose warm. They're better for your eyes at night. Or you could join IDA and find out more details. Some recommendations for outdoor street lighting. This would be for towns and cities. Use fully shielded fixtures that emit no light upward, no light trespass, and retrofit them if possible. Use warm white or filtered LEDs, 3,000 degrees or less, so that they're more yellow. Avoid the temptation to overlight, and only light the exact space and the amount required for a particular task. You're only going to light a small porch. Don't light the whole yard around it. Here's an example of a city that has done this, Tucson, Arizona, 2018, just decided to go for it and changed all their lights. The picture, you're looking at the city, but you don't see much because all the lights point down. So they managed to save $2 million in energy savings every year. Expected lifetimes of the bulbs from 8 to 25 years, so they don't have to replace them often. 63% reduction in total lumens emitted by the streetlights, so it's a lot darker. And the blue emissions were reduced by 34%. So it can be done even in a major city. They had to change over 19,000 lights to make them 3,000 degree with adaptive controls. They operate at 90% power until midnight, and then they turn them down to 60% after midnight because most people aren't using the city then, so the lights don't need to be so bright. Well, there are some good lights in Broomfield. Here's Sheridan street lighting. Those lights have been around for quite a few years. They shine down on the street. They are blocked so that they don't shine up. Here's the picture in the daytime of the same lights. The birds like it too. And you see that there is no way that any of the light is going to shine upward. It only shines down. Here's another street in Broomfield. This has new lighting, new LED lighting. Notice that the street and the sidewalk are lit, but again, the fence and the houses behind it are not lit. So proper lighting, and this is what that LED looks like in the daytime. So it's one of the ones that has the edge shielding on it to block excessive light. Here's some more good lighting in Broomfield. Lights actually have covers over them, so they only shine down. Here's some not so good lighting in Broomfield. This is probably more typical. It's probably what most of you have seen. This light shines out sideways because the cover doesn't cover all the way down. And so here's one of those lights, and you'll notice it's doing a very good job of lighting up that bedroom on that house. And it shouldn't be. It's a street light, but it's not lighting the street very well. It's lighting the house much better. Here's some bad lighting in Broomfield, and these are new. Del Corso Way, new apartments that were just built a few years ago. Notice the lights. They have very poor covers and they shine out sideways. And you want to see that street light at night? There it is, shining into some. They just did not design the light correctly. Excuse me. And here's one of the worst examples in Broomfield, near the library. You'll notice these lights are designed to shine upward rather than down. So you're lighting up the top of the building much better than the walkways. Here's some residential glare. If you just go down a street in Broomfield, you see the houses and the porch lights on at night, and you can see they kind of blind you rather than help you to see what you're looking for. Here's another example in Broomfield of a street light that's lighting up that house very nicely, and the glary lights on the porches themselves. So we need both the street lights and the house lights to be modified. Recommendations for Broomfield: all future street and residential lighting should follow IDA recommendations. And you have to look those up, but I've already showed you most of them. Where possible, present street lighting should be retrofitted. And if you remember the lights that are glaring, all you need is a cover over it that blocks the light from shining upward or into your eyes. And residential lighting should be changed, in other words, the porch lights, to comply over a period of time. This was already done in Boulder, and most of those lights in Boulder are now complying with IDA listings. Here's what's happening elsewhere in Colorado, in case you're wondering. Boulder, an outdoor lighting ordinance is in effect. Fort Collins, they're working on one. Castle Pines, they're working on lighting codes. Sky community designation to go along with Rocky Mountain National Park being an IDA dark sky park. Paonia is working toward a dark sky community designation. Norwood is one. West Cliff and Silver Cliff, they've been dark sky communities for many years. They actually have tourists coming there at night just to see the skies. So they've increased their tourism by, I don't know, several factors just because of that. And this past year, Jackson Lake State Park in Northeast Colorado was designated a dark sky park. And Ridgeway was just recently designated a dark sky community. So a lot of places in Colorado are doing it and working on it. The group at the bottom, Black Canyon of the Gunnian Center in Hillsdale County, that's a dark sky area. Great Sand Dunes, dark sky park, and Mesa Verde, now a dark sky park. So these places have covered all their lights over so they don't shine in people's eyes, they don't shine up into the sky. They just give enough light to see what you need to see. And one of these days, you might be able to look up in Broomfield at the hills and actually see some constellations that you can't really see very well today. Are we doing all right on time?
Yeah, we're doing just fine.
I have about a 6-minute video. You want to see it?
Yeah, go for it. Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it playing on my end here.
Excuse me?
I said, I'm not seeing it playing on my end. All I still see is the link.
Oh. Well, not sure what the problem is. You're
Julie,
not seeing it?
I don't know, Julie or Lauren, are you seeing a video playing?
I'm not either.
No.
I'm not. I just see the link to.
Okay, I'll stop it.
Yeah, it might be the internet connection or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it is because I do hear like little bits and pieces, but that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what to do to change that.
Yeah, I think it just might not be possible with the internet connection that we have.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll end it there then.
It's okay. It was very informative. I learned
And
a
if you
lot. I
want to
definitely,
share it, we can look at it later too. I mean, I can see the link, so it's something I can pull up later. That would
Yeah,
work.
it's available on the internet.
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
We'll try and link it with our video here so people
Okay,
can watch it. Yeah, or in our follow-up newsletter and people can
Mhm.
click on it and watch it. That should work just fine.
okay,
Very
well, that's the end of the presentation then.
awesome. Thank you so much, George. That's very informative. I definitely want to change like my front porch light and my back porch light.
Same here. I
Yeah,
was just thinking of
uh,
everything I could change. It was great. It's
Yeah.
very eye-opening.
yeah, if you walk outside and look around your street, you'll see lots of examples of poor lighting.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've done this presentation in the past with the Open Space Society or organization, and I was wondering, is there any like follow-up that people can do in Broomfield to help like push forward these changes?
Well, we did have one woman email me later on after she heard the talk and say that she got her neighborhood to change all of its lighting for the entire neighborhood.
Oh, cool.
So I guess, you know, if you have some influence, you can talk to other neighbors or get them to change lighting. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen any changes in the city itself, though.
Do you know like how the other cities have gotten those outdoor lighting ordinances passed or how they started with that?
Usually the discussion is around tourism.
Okay.
A lot of those towns like to attract tourists, and it gives them one more thing to attract people with.
And do you know if it was just I don't know, tourism businesses that were approaching the city, or can residents approach the city?
I think it was residents,
Okay.
active people who wanted to get something done.
Yeah. So if we
Yeah.
have residents in Broomfield, we could just be like, hey, contact your city council member and maybe this will be something.
I've actually had several city council members hear about this,
Awesome.
but nothing's changed. Not yet,
Okay.
anyway.
Well, we'll definitely try to get it out there so people can create a little more pressure and maybe some more things will be changed because of that.
Yeah, if you get a chance to talk to somebody in the city council or somebody who knows something about the lighting, talk to them, try to get it changed.
Awesome. Any questions from anybody else?
I just want to say it was so eye-opening. It just seems like such a simple fix that I guess we just don't see it every day. And after
Yeah,
seeing
I
this,
think the problem is that most people are so used to the bad lighting, it doesn't
Mhm.
occur to them that it's bad lighting.
Yeah, it's like when you don't have, like I used to have bad eyesight, but I didn't know it until I got my eyes checked. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, this is a different world. So
Yeah,
I think
and if you walk down a street that has proper lighting and then compare it with a street that doesn't, it's amazing.
yeah.
Big difference.
I feel like I'm forever changed. Like I'm gonna look around the city and just see a difference now. So I think this is wonderful.
No, that's good.
Definitely. Lauren or Sheila, you guys have any questions or comments or anything?
I agree. I mean, it's very eye-opening. And I believe I saw either the same or a similar presentation a few years ago. And I'm just searching for the time to try to bring it up and highlight it within my own HOA, because I see where there's some room for improvement, definitely.
I mean, like our neighborhood, a lot of people are getting those security lights where it's like a motion light and it'll record, but most of them just seem so ill-designed. And so I think this is just something that we deal with every day, so I I think this raising awareness and like Sheila was saying to our HOA, I think that would be huge to get that awareness out there and get people educated on the proper design.
Yeah, the International Dark Sky Association tries to talk to lighting companies and tell them about the bad design, but doesn't seem to have a lot of effect. I'm not sure why not, but maybe they just don't want to listen.
Yeah, it's like they're stuck in their way. This is how we've always done it mentality
Yeah,
or something.
pretty much.
Yeah, and I think
I do think that HOAs are a great place to raise that awareness.
Yeah, that's a
Because-
good idea.
Mhm. That way, when they make the choices about what they're going to purchase, they'll have that in mind.
Well, and I wonder if HOAs, are they in charge of the lights, like the street lights in the neighborhood, or is it just maybe in the park or at the clubhouse or, you know, something like that?
Yeah, it may vary. The city may
Well, they,
have a lot of.
yeah, they do have, we have all these lanterns all over Wildgrass, and then we've got lighting on every single garage. It's really quite blinding, actually. Very difficult to sleep. And a lot of it has to do with the shield that you were talking about, making sure that the light is directed downward.
Yeah, that's all it is. Just
Mhm.
the proper
Mhm.
cover over it.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like a minor fix for an issue.
Mhm.
Does.
If they're not a part of the original design, at least, you know, at this point, that's an easy fix. I don't think it would cost much as lights are being, you know, fixed and maintained and things like that.
Yeah, we had a street light outside my house that burned out about a year ago, and none of the neighbors complained because it was shining in everybody's window. And we were upset when they fixed it. I didn't realize they were going to fix it, and suddenly one night it was on again. So
Yeah.
Darn,
sometimes it's better not to have them.
yeah, maybe you should write to the city and get a bunch of your neighbors to sign a little petition being like, we want you to change this street light, please. So because it's shining in everybody's windows and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, George. Very interesting and enlightening, and we'll definitely try to get this out there to more people so they can watch your presentation and learn more about it, and hopefully watch the video as well, and just become aware of the issue here. So
Okay,
really appreciate
Yes.
you taking the time. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Awesome. Well, does anyone else have any other topics they'd like to discuss tonight? Got a nice short, small group here, so we can cut off
I
things
think it was
early.
just so nice out that people were,
Yeah,
you know,
I know I definitely have stuff that I'm like, oh, I could still be working in my yard right now and doing things.
I know. And then, yeah, I'm sorry, my son's baseball game ran into like overtime with,
Okay.
yeah.
No worries. Well, thank you everybody for making it tonight. I really appreciate it. And to our presenters who did a great job. I think that our next meeting next month will be outside and probably held at the Crescent Grange. I know we're going to have a presentation by the president of the Colorado Bee Society, maybe it is. So we have bees at the Grange, so he's actually going to show us the bees and talk about them and stuff. And we're kind of figuring out what other speakers we might have at that point. So I think that'll be a good one and a nice opportunity for people to be outside and enjoying the nice nighttime atmosphere. So
Sounds good.
be a good one. All right. Anything
Okay.
else? All right. Well, thank you everyone and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.